So a perspective of the Atlantic tropical basin, and that's Tropical Storm Erika, the fifth named storm of the Atlantic season. We've already had two minor hurricanes. Erika could be on the way to becoming a hurricane, still a tropical storm right now. You can see its proximity to the U.S. It's still a long ways away, but it's getting very close to the Windward Islands. Tropical Storm Erika as of the 11 p.m. advisory, and we're getting these every 3 hours now. 16 north, 56.3 west, or about 370 miles east-southeast of Antigua. Winds at 60 miles an hour. And it's moving west-northwest at 18. There are tropical storm watches out from Anguilla all the way down to Guadeloupe. And again, we're going to have to watch this one closely, folks. From what I understand, our technical director here, Andy Weeks, tells us that he was just talking to some folks down here, and they're getting very, very concerned as well. They should, because it looks like this tropical storm is going to be coming a little bit closer, maybe too close for comfort, really, and it's tracking still in that west-northwest direction. Air Force reconnaissance plane up to the north, the NOAA plane, evidently has found a bigger high to the north than we thought. That might keep this on a more west-northwest track. We'll keep you updated. Dave, how about that forecast? Miles an hour, but it doesn't look like it's going to intensify a lot. Maybe just hold its own as it spins.
Weather Channel. No place on Earth has better weather.
I'm Paul Emick at the Weather Channel with Andy Weeks, our director this hour. Now, Andy's from the Virgin Islands, and Andy, of course, is used to at this time of the year paying close attention to the happenings of the weather. And the islands are in need, and definitely in need of keeping close contact with the Weather Channel to see how things progress here at 10 every hour. We'll do our tropical update and let you know the latest positioning on storms across the islands, and let us see exactly what's progressing. Here's the current position, latest position of Tropical Storm Erika, moving west-northwest, 17 miles an hour. Winds sustained 65 miles an hour. Now, 3 or 4 hours ago, several hours back, the winds were around 60 miles an hour. It has been upgraded just a bit as far as that goes. Still a tropical storm, though, for now. The pressure is estimated at 2953 inches of mercury and 1,000 millibars there. It's 310 miles east-southeast of Antigua, 16.1 north and 57.2 west. Again, this is Tropical Storm Erika, and that is the position of it right there, this being South America, just to the north of it there. It's made a long trip. Had to make a long trek to get this over here, move it along in the Atlantic and keep it very active. Could be seeing some additional problems here. Now, in addition to the fact that Tropical Storm sits there, we also have to keep tabs on a number of systems that would also kind of keep a couple of things active. Now, first of all, this one is the main thing to focus on, the Tropical Storm Erika. The tropical storm warning in effect for the Dutch portion of St. Martin. France has issued tropical storm watches for Guadeloupe, St. Martin, St. Barthélemy. Antigua has issued a tropical storm watch for Antigua, Montserrat, Barbuda, Nevis, St. Kitts, and Anguilla. Tropical storm watch may be replaced by tropical storm warnings sometime today. Entities in the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico should monitor the progress of Erika. Again, that's currently moving west-northwest. Maximum sustained winds about 65 miles an hour. Tropical storm force winds, though, extend outward up to 145 miles out from this area. Now, the interesting thing, too, right now, the storminess, here it's proximity to the islands. You see that to the Lesser Antilles there. Strongest winds, the gustiest winds north and east of the center of circulation as it continues to move. This is Tropical Storm Erika. You see the oranges, the reds, that represents the convection. Okay? For this system to come along and really continue to intensify, it needs a number of things. It has to have warm ocean water. Boom, got that, no problem. 79, 80 degrees, that's the threshold water temperature. So no problem in this area at all with the warm water. You have to have high pressure aloft. That is something that is kind of progressing, it kind of moved into an area of high pressure, continues to do so. Throughout the day on Thursday, Erika did run into a few problems in the way of some low to mid-level winds, easterly winds that tried to rip or shear a system apart. If winds aloft are too fast, they can literally tear apart a tropical system. Those winds do not actually tear it apart too bad. It's now able to strengthen, and has been strengthening a bit as it moves into an area of of high pressure, anticyclonic flow aloft. It has to have that. It has to have some kind of pre-existing spin to move along and become tropical. That is exactly what this thing has done, as it's made a very long trek, but it's a very active area. A close-up vantage point shows that deep convection. See that dark red right there and the orange around it? That is a lot of storm right there, still moving along. Looking elsewhere, we look now to the coast of Africa. Here's the coast of Africa, the Cape Verde Islands.
The Weather Channel. No place on Earth has better weather.
10 minutes before the hour, I know you want to know the very latest, of course, on our tropical storm. It's the 5th one of the season across the Atlantic basin, and Erika has strengthened overnight. Now it has winds of 65 miles an hour, and its forward momentum has changed directions a little bit. Yesterday it was moving to the northwest. This morning it is moving to the west-northwest, so it has a little bit more of a westerly component to its forward momentum. And it's moving at 17 miles an hour. You can see that the estimated pressure, 999 millibars. If you're plotting with us, Erika is centered at 16.2 degrees north, 57.8 degrees west, and that makes it about 275 miles east-southeast of Antigua. Again, winds up to 65 miles an hour, so it's still a very strong tropical storm, and you know it has to have winds of at least 74, 75 miles an hour to become a hurricane. Is it forecast to become a hurricane? Well, the immediate forecast does not strengthen the system into a hurricane. It should remain a tropical storm for much of the day. Nevertheless, tropical storm warnings and watches have been issued for the northeastern islands. Now, the watches you can see for the U.S. and the British Virgin Islands, and we have tropical storm warnings for Antigua as well as Barbuda, St. Kitts, St. Martin, and even around the again, the Dutch portions of the St. Martin area. So tropical storm warnings and tropical storm watches have been issued. Puerto Rico not included. Here's a look now at our satellite picture. We've enhanced those brighter colors to indicate the higher, the colder cloud tops, and many of these responsible for the deep convection and the heavy thunderstorm activity associated with this tropical storm. Now, the center of the storm is a little bit closer to the overcast, the central dense overcast cloud, so that indicates that this system is strengthening some. You see deeper convection here and deeper convection here. Of course, these are the islands, the Leeward Islands, and you can see the U.S. and the British Virgin Islands right here, just east of Puerto Rico. So as this system continues to move off toward the west-northwest, it may bring us some tropical storm force winds and some pretty heavy rains right across the islands of the northeastern Caribbean. So we'll keep you posted as we go through the day as it moves off to the west-northwest at about 17 miles an hour. Here is a different perspective of our tropical storm. To its east, we don't have much going on, so it's basically creating an environment alone by itself here, and that's why it has been able to strengthen over the last 12 to 24 hours. A little farther east, and yesterday we had a very impressive wave getting ready to come off the West African coast. You can see it yesterday, but this morning that system has totally dissipated and totally diffused itself as some of it moved out across the open waters here of the Atlantic, but not much convection, so this system didn't hold together very well at all. Our other system didn't hold together very well at all either in the Bay of Campeche, as it didn't materialize too much. And you can see that we do have some higher level clouds associated with an upper level low pressure system here just west of Jamaica. This is not an organized tropical system. A little farther west now, of course, this being Mexico, so we're back across the eastern Pacific waters here, and Tropical Storm Kevin. Now, yesterday it was a depression. This morning it is a tropical storm, as waters here are a little bit warmer, partly resulting from, of course, El Nino. So things have been a little bit more active in the East Pacific as far as the tropics go. Tropical Storm Kevin is centered at 20.8 degrees north, 119.6 degrees west. That makes it 630 miles west-southwest of Cabo San Lucas, which is right here, the southern tip of Mexico, with winds of 60 miles an hour. It should strengthen a little bit more in the immediate forecast Well, the long-range forecast pulls it back over cooler water, so it should begin to weaken. Now, this is Bing, Tropical Storm Bing. Actually, it's become extra tropical, so it's starting to lose its characteristics of the tropical nature, so we don't have to worry about Bing anymore. But Oliva, right here, the open water.
The Weather Channel. No place on Earth has better weather.
This tropical update is sponsored by the Home Depot, where low prices are just the beginning.
We have the latest for you on Tropical Storm Erika. This is brand new information. And Tropical Storm Erika, located at 16.4 north, 57.4 west, 295 miles east-southeast of Antigua in the Leeward Islands. Maximum winds have not changed from the 5 o'clock update, but the movement of the storm has. Erika has slowed down considerably from 17 to 13 miles an hour in a west-northwest direction. And the pressure has come down slightly from 999 to 995 millibars. Here are your watches and warnings. In this case, because Erika is a tropical storm, they are tropical storm watches for the U.S. and British Virgin Islands. Since it's been a while since you've experienced this, a watch means that tropical force or tropical storm conditions are possible within 36 hours. The tropical storm warning means tropical storm conditions are expected in the warning area, which stretches from Dominica to Anguilla, including the islands of Barbuda, St. Kitts, St. Martin, and also Antigua, and tropical storm conditions within 24 hours. Here's the position of Erika, 295 miles east-southeast of Antigua, moving west-northwest at 13, a little slower than it moved last night. Your colorized satellite picture shows the thunderstorm activity building up and then dying out. The cloud tops warming a bit and then the darker red reappearing. That indicates colder cloud tops, possibly a little bit of intensification. The center is probably fairly close to the central dense overcast, the tallest cloud tops in this vicinity. Certainly the water temperatures are out here are plenty warm enough for organization, strengthening, but the official forecast keeps Erika a tropical storm for the next 72 hours. We'll just have to wait and see because, as you know, Erika is a strong tropical storm right now. The track of the system, again, the official track, takes a west-northwest to the vicinity of the island of St. Martin by early Saturday morning, and then northeast of the U.S. Virgin Islands, which are right in here, Saturday afternoon. That track, of course, is subject to change, and we will have frequent updates for you concerning Tropical Storm Erika. There is a Hurricane Hunter aircraft out in the storm, and they've been passing along information to us for the last couple of hours, basically showing that Erika has pretty much maintained itself during the nighttime hours. Here's the big picture, and it is Erika that is a story in the tropics today. Otherwise, just a few weak tropical waves, one now coming off the African continent, pretty much falling apart. So Erika is the top story on the Atlantic side. Eastern Caribbean now free of cloud cover. You can see Erika approaching from the east, however. There's an upper low over the Western Caribbean, and that disturbance that we watched yesterday in the Bay of Campeche never materialized. So unless convection or thunderstorm activity reappears here under the upper level high, there are no concerns in the southwest Gulf of Mexico. And we see thunderstorms in the northeast Gulf. Pacific side, here's Tropical Storm Kevin, 20.8 north, 119.6 west. Maximum winds on Kevin, 60. And it's moving west-northwest at 14 over the open ocean waters. El Nino conditions, warmer than average surface water temperatures have maintained Kevin, but recently, as you can see, the thunderstorm activity.
Weather Channel. No place on Earth has better weather.
Well, welcome to the Weather Channel. 9 minutes before the hour. You're just in time for the tropical update. Yes, indeed, we have a new hurricane in the Atlantic Ocean. It is Hurricane Erika, 16.7 north, 58 degrees west. That puts the center of Erika 250 miles or so east of Antigua, which is in the Leeward Islands or the Northeast Caribbean here. The maximum sustained winds are 75 miles an hour, and the storm movement is west-northwest at 13. That is a little slower than it was at early this morning. It slowed down just a bit in its forward movement to the west-northwest. Central pressure, 997 millibars. John Hope just showed me a statement, however, from the Hurricane Hunter aircraft, which indicates an estimated pressure of 990 millibars. So that is substantially lower than the 997 officially we saw at the 11 o'clock update. Well, Erika seems to have made a bit of a comeback since the wee hours of this morning when we saw some little bit of disorganization in the thunderstorm activity. There were a couple of pockets of storms for a while. Now it seems like Erika is becoming more symmetrical, and even though the cloud tops have warmed a little bit in the last few hours, it's still a pretty impressive system, and winds here aloft are fairly favorable for development. In the high levels, there are some southwest winds, and that may keep Erika from strengthening rapidly, which is good news, but Erika is expected to continue to strengthen gradually over the next 24 to 36 hours. The track of Erika still expected to be west-northwest, probably clipping the northeast islands of the Caribbean, the northeast Leeward Islands. Barbuda might be the closest to the center. At Antigua, you're under the gun. Probably St. Martin, possibly the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, although it appears that right now the official track takes it well north of you. And it will be on the north side of the storm where that'll be where the strongest winds are located, because you have to add the forward speed plus the winds generated by the storm. So it's on the south side that the winds are slightly lighter. So the track that is estimated now may be good news for the islands in the northeast Caribbean. Here's your visible satellite picture. Pretty well put together hurricane. We can zoom in a bit here to show you Hurricane Erika, 250 miles east of Antigua. This is Barbuda and St. Martin right here in the Virgin Islands. Great day in Puerto Rico, by the way, because you're getting the subsidence or sinking air out ahead of the storm. But over the next couple of days, things could change dramatically. So we urge you folks to stay with us. By the way, there are hurricane warnings in effect. I believe they stretch from Guadalupe to St. Martin, south of Guadalupe to Dominica, tropical storm warnings. By the way, hurricane warnings mean that hurricane conditions are expected to develop within 24 hours. So watch out. And hurricane watches for the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, which means hurricane conditions are possible within 36 hours. Erika is the top story in the Atlantic, no more than a few tropical waves elsewhere. That system we are watching here in the Bay of Campeche has not developed, although there's a flare-up in thunderstorms and there is high pressure aloft. So we'll have to watch this area very closely. Kevin, well, continues to diminish and is expected to weaken. Most of the convection is already gone. And Hawaiian Islands